Hello, EuroSTAR friends all over the world. This is Shmuel Gershon speaking directly from Israel, and I'll be your host in the next few minutes. A little bit about me. I am a EuroSTAR online ambassador, so I was invited to speak on this spot. During my days, I am a tester at Intel Corporation in Jerusalem, and during my nights, I am a tester at home. Testing really takes most of my wake up time and sometimes my sleep time as well. I write at my blog at http://testing.gershon.info, where you can also find my exploratory testing notes tool, Rapid Reporter. To the topic. I was asked to choose my own topic for this talk, which turned out to be harder than speaking on a designated topic. And because I'm supposed to give a presentation on bug isolation in about a month, and because Chris Blaine's presentation on troubleshooting at Guest seemed to bring up interest, I decided to start preparing my presentation here together with you. So I took some notes about bug isolation that I want to share. First, I want to share a personal story that happened to me about 6 years ago when I just started being a tester. I was on my first months of testing after 5 years working as a programmer in another place. So it was a new job for me at a new company, which was Intel. I was a very motivated rookie and had a very good manager. In fact, I still have a different good manager, and I hope I still am as motivated as back then. In any case, I had found a bug that was related to the BIOS. The product we test is embedded in the motherboard of computers like the ones you listeners are using now. And the bug I found apparently had roots in how the BIOS sets the data about the computer. The BIOS team was in a different country, the United States. And if you remember how it is when you are a beginner at work, requests and questions that come from abroad or from completely different groups seems so much important and shiny. So I was spending hours after hours trying combinations, going through different versions and going to different systems and OSs, sending information and receiving questions. My manager had noticed that I was staying until late and was involved in multiple mail threads about this issue. So after a few days, she finally came to ask me why I was spending so much time dwelling on this one single issue. Startled, I answered that it is our duty to discover everything and nail this bug perfectly to a T, isn't it? We have to submit bugs that are as isolated and clean as possible, no? So her answer was that I was right in trying to discover things, and that's why she gave me free rein on these first days. But she asked me to notice that I was losing the opportunity of finding other new bugs in all this time spent on finding information about this one bug. That was a very special moment, an epiphany. That was true. So, how do I know when to stop? What's the moment to move from one bug to the other? My manager explained that there is no clear-cut rule, or best practice if you may, and the trick is to stop whenever I feel that on this case I will be more effective looking for a new bug instead of looking for more information on an old one. It depends a lot on the kind of information we are looking for and the kind of information we are finding. And it certainly requires a lot of awareness and sincerity about our work and its reasons and objectives. So, in summary, that was a very interesting thing for me, and it was a first peek into the world of philosophy of bug investigation. It's a big question of bug investigation. When do you stop? Another question of bug investigation is how do you do it? And I want to take also a few minutes to talk about this other question. And so this is the second topic that I want to share. Some parts of the isolation process and the options that we face when we are looking at a bug in front of us. Okay, how do we start looking at it? So I was able for this talk to enumerate 5 options. You may help me fill some more with your comments. One of the options that we have is no isolation, not doing any effort of isolation. We see a bug, we report what we see, what I see is what you get. And that's a legitimate option we have. Many times we really do that, open a bug only with the initial data that we have with it. Some places would even go to the extreme of just mentioning the test that failed, as in test system shutdown W2 fails, with no information about the bug at all. And we could argue that this extreme is less legitimate, or useful, less useful at least. But non-isolation is nonetheless an option that we have. A second option that we have is waiting, or time will tell. We don't do isolation work now, because the answer may come to us later. It can happen in many ways. Someone else may do this work for us, or bring us more information about the issue, or we may find a different bug that will clarify points about this one bug. We can also just let the answer come to us. When we are not focusing on the problem, we may find the answer during lunchtime or during a dream. It has been known to happen. A third option we have, and a very common one, is experimentation. After seeing a bug, after or before reporting it, we keep trying things that teach us about the bug. Experimentation happens in many ways. We have focusing strategies and we have defocusing strategies. To mention some of the focusing strategies that I recall now, so there are what I call a hatching strategy. Just like a bird hatching that will step out a bit from the nest but never go too far away from it. So hatching the bug will be when we try tiny modifications to this and that input, a little bit at a time, to see how the small detail changes impacts the bug phenomena. More strategies. Danny Foth, in his 1994 article on bug isolation, mentions also a top-down strategy, which means taking out elements from a bug reproducing scenario until the bug stops reproducing. And at that moment you have a specific set of conditions that are required to reproduce the bug. And he also mentions the opposite, bottom-up strategy. That means starting from a clean, simple scenario and adding elements to it gradually until the bug reproduces. At which moment you will have another and possibly different set of conditions for that bug. Another method is what I call a reordering strategy. That's when you have steps for a bug and you think what happens when you reorder the steps and perform them in a different order. Are there more conditions to recreate the bug that you previously thought of? So this exercise will bring you information about the problem that you had not thought of before. One last in the list of focusing strategies for bug isolation, in this audio at least, are the variation strategies. You change your inputs, you change your versions, you change your peripherals until you can rule out the irrelevant parts. When focusing, we can notice that much of our work is coming up with an hypothesis and then trying out to disprove it. And we have defocusing strategies as well, some of which are doing big adjustments, changing big chunks of the system that may or not be related to the bug being studied. Or also the iterations or repetition strategy. You do the same steps again, but this time you are not looking for the same bug, you are looking for the other things or bugs in the system. Because you may be seeing and focusing on one thing, while a lot of other things are going on behind your back. So you redo the steps, opening your eyes and ears and senses and logs to new reactions of the system. A fourth option of bug isolation after the experimentation is the best guess. We can use our experience for that, as in Yeah, I know about the technical aspects of this, and it looks to me that the reason for this bug are A, B, and C. We can use someone else's experience and ask questions. We can also use examining questions, like the 5 whys that are used to find root causes recursively, asking why until you get to the most deep reason, or the 7 questions proposed by a Hebrew commentator to deeply understand a topic, which are who, what, to whom, when, where, how, and why. These are very similar to the 5W2H questions, but they add the useful to whom question, which is an important part of any reaction, in my opinion. Any type of inquisitive questions can help you understand what it is you are seeing. The last, fifth option we bring here for isolation is program debugging. Doing the debugging of the code with or for a programmer. It has some advantages. Suddenly the bug is not your problem anymore, and you are free to hunt for other bugs. So that's a good thing. And many times it is, in fact, quicker doing it by code debugging than experimentation. But it has some disadvantages as well. For example, the biggest disadvantage is that we as testers are missing a lot of info about the bug that could be used for us as hints for the quality related information we are seeking. We are used to be curious, motivated investigators, and we suddenly abdicate the rights to do that for a little while when we give this study to others to do for us. And in more technical aspects, if the bug in question is an intermittent or sporadic bug, debugging with the source code becomes very ineffective. In addition, when too many bugs are reported without a certain depth of pinpointing, and programmers get only bugs that are doubtful, confusing, and poor, then that's certainly reputation inefficient, and our credibility starts to suffer too. One easy way that can solve the problems above is just doing it together. When testers and programmers pair, they can use the overall system knowledge a tester can have with him, together with the more detailed view of a routine the programmer has. And they can use the complex testing setups with the useful programmer tools. As they pair, they start to notice the strengths of each other. So it's a win-win-win all-around scenario across the sky. I am already over time, and we have mentioned two of the big questions of bug isolation. When do you stop, and how do you do it? We have mentioned 5 options of strategies to use when isolating a bug. But I don't want to stop the recording without mentioning some tools that can help you, and leaving you some questions. Regarding tools, if you are testing Microsoft Windows software, then you can use Microsoft sysinternal tools, which are free and give a vast amount of information about running processes and behind their hoods. Just search the web for sysinternals. Another important tool you have are the notes you take. They are filled with information about what was happening in the system. You can use Rapid Reporter, of course, for these notes, or other tool. Tools that record the system while you test are useful, like BB Test Assistance, which is not free, and will record the screen and all comments that are happening. And last, your system's logs are essential. If you can think of others, you can leave the names of other tools that help you in this task in the comments. Another thing you can write back in the comments are your answers for these final questions of this audio. So, for example, how far can a bug isolation effort take us? How far do we want it to take us? What is our responsibility? When does it stop and it starts being someone else's responsibility? A programmer, a customer responsibility, our peer responsibility? Last, how can you take advantage of patterns? If you cluster the bugs you find into patterns, can this help you better isolate new bugs? I believe so, but I am not sure on how to do it, so I am open for suggestions. This is all I have for now, and I'll be glad to engage in discussion. That's all for now. This is already 15 minutes long, and the EuroSTAR folks will be mad at me for the overtime. So thank you very much. I am Shmuel Gershon, and I hope you enjoyed and found this audio useful. Bye.